Hello again, everyone. Welcome to 90s to Now. I am, as always, Jerry Strauss. And folks, we have got a guest that we've been waiting a long time to get back on the show. She's here for the second time. Unfortunately, I haven't come up with a better name for that than she's one of our first two-timers. But she's here. She's part of one of the most iconic sitcom families in all of television history, and she is spending a little bit of time with us this time out. Lecy Goranson, how are you?
I'm doing great. I kind of feel like I embody 90s to now culturally. I mean,
You
the fact
really,
that my show in the 90s is kind of still going now is pretty crazy. I mean, it's not the same, but
it is. I mean,
similar enough.
you are what this show is all about. We have grown up with you. You have grown up with us, and it's only right that we talk about it once in a while. So glad to have you back. Um, Here's the weird thing. Last time you were on the show, we were talking heavily about the experience of coming out of the pandemic and finding a way to create this show after being off for a long time and then getting in the studio, but all the restrictions and no studio audience and everything. And you guys were just kind of coming out of that. And now here we are. And now it's this whole other situation from months ago that we came out of again. The whole world in entertainment going on strike and everything coming to a stop. And then all of a sudden it's go, go, go. What's it been like this time?
Oh man. Well, in true Connors fashion, life has to be difficult for all of us. I feel like it's just been one thing after another, but we're all super psyched to be back to work. I mean, man, it could have just been indefinite, and we just appreciate. I mean, it is a big difference having a truncated season going from 22 episodes to 13. That's a big difference. But looking on the bright side, I live part of the year right outside of New York City, and I could spend some fall months in New York, and that was really lovely because I mean, the fact that we just are doing we already shot our 100th episode for the Connors.
Mm.
It's going to air relatively soon. But boy, did that time fly. I mean, 6 seasons, we're on our 6th season. Like, that's crazy.
It's so
Where does
insane.
time go?
It's just the idea that, you did this amazing, iconic, classic show back in the 90s, of course. And then all these years later, you guys come back together. I mean, I almost equate it like stopping back at your old high school or your old job from when you
Yeah.
were a teenager. And it's like, wait a second, I just decided to hang around here again for another 6 years and like have the best time all over again. Like 100 episodes, you're doing it all over again.
Yeah, I know. And it's weird because I didn't even know the last time if I was indeed there for 100 because I left, kind of midway,
Yeah.
honestly, of the show. I mean, I kind of went back and forth a little bit until I stopped doing that. But I think I still made it to 100 then. So I
Yeah.
think I clocked in my 100, but it's again like our show is now, I guess, in syndication. Here in LA, it's on KTLA. I know my dad, who lives in Chicago, said it's on WGN.
Mm.
And so it's so funny, especially with the kids, because Ames McNamara, who plays my nephew, was just like a tiny little kid, and now he is like a giant. He's like 6 foot whatever. I mean, 3 or something. He's so tall.
Yeah.
And that's really like tells the time when you see, the growth of the kids, because we
Yeah.
don't grow anymore. I mean, we grow emotionally and intellectually, but
We try,
that's
but
right.
well, yeah, and syndication, 100 episodes, syndication. This is, in classic TV show fashion, I believe, just sort of a launching pad for the Conners to now achieve this whole other level of popularity as people watch it again and again and again over the coming years. Even as the show continues to go on, it's just going to live forever now. Like, you've made it again.
Well, it's, in terms of how long we're going to go from this point, I hope we go. I know there was some nasty rumors out there that this was the last season, but I am putting it out there that is just a rumor. But we all, I mean, it's not just the cast. A lot of the crew has been there since day one. We have had so much history, and we love, we're a family. We're a family. The cast is a family. The crew is a family. We're all a family. And we love, I think for all of us, we say we could do this easily for another 6 years, easily.
That's good to hear.
So you listening, ABC?
The people have spoken. Lecy is their leader, but we all want it. So
I don't know about that, but
you're appointed now. You've stepped up. It's too late. Listen, we announced you were coming back on the show. Just like last time you were on the show, we got absolutely flooded with comments and questions about the old times, the new times, everything in between. I am going to try to rapid fire and get through as much as we can with you in the time that we have. If you are ready to play the game, we're ready to go. Are you ready?
All right, let me take a deep breath. Okay, let's do it.
All right. And a lot of this we went to our friends at on Reddit. So thank you to Reddit in general, but all our good friends there, but all over social media, they were chiming in. Purplish Platypus would like to know, what do you remember about your audition process to play Becky originally?
Interesting. So when I was 12 when I auditioned, and this was my second audition. I lived grew up in the Chicago suburbs. So I was going downtown because I was actually studying acting at the Piven Theater Workshop. And they had affiliations, people like John Cusack and Lily Taylor and Aidan Quinn all studied. And Jeremy Piven was the son of the Pivens who ran the studio. So they had an open call with an agency. And I remember I was spending a lot of time at the YMCA. So I'd been swimming. It was cold out. So I was wearing my dad's sweater, and I showed up to the audition in Chicago, and there were like girls my age with makeup on and who actually did something with their hair that looked attractive. And I thought, there's no way this is going to happen. And then I went home, had some, a couple of days later, was eating some Chinese food, opened a fortune cookie, and it said, "You will be graced with the presence of stardom." And then literally 2 minutes later, the phone rang and they said, "We want you to come out to LA for a callback." And we all went, "What?" My parents were going, "Did they see are you sure it was you? Like, you look like you had chlorine in your hair and you was wet." And so I went out with my mom, and we stayed kind of close to Universal Studios. It was like overnight. And then I showed up at Universal Studios, and then there were all these brunette girls. So I was the only blonde. And they were kind of trying to psych me out and say, "Oh, Roseanne's a brunette," and whatever. And I didn't care because I had a free trip to LA. And then they said, "Lecy, stay, everyone else go." And then I proceeded to audition with all the Darlenes and all the DJs. And then we all went to ABC, and they told us that we were cast. So it was like a really crazy situation. I was not a diaper, commercial kid or any kind of professional acting kid. I just did school theater and local, theater stuff at school and whatever. So.
And you didn't care. And how many times have we heard that story? The person who walks in and doesn't really care, doesn't really sweat it, they're the ones who get the part.
Yeah, I guess there's something freeing about not caring, that you're not going and, going it's not like your life is riding on it. I had a pretty happy life at that point, so it was a big decision to leave it
Mm.
and
Well,
have a full-time job, so
and the rest is history. From the from the beginning to a very a small detail about your time as Becky back in the 90s. I had to Google this one myself. Dwarfheart wants to know, did you choreograph your own routine to pump up the jam? Now, I looked this up on YouTube. Do you remember what he's talking
of
about?
course. I mean, people I work with will just come up to me literally and say, "Pump up the jam," because they want to remember that scene, and yes, I did, although to be fair, my choreography was a little less extreme than what they kind of pushed me to go a little crazy, because the joke is then John Goodman comes in, Dan, and interrupts me, and it's horrific. So yes, my choreography, but they the director wanted me to do it with a little more extreme, my moves to be a little more extreme. So
I think the dividing line between people who are born to be on a stage and those who aren't are whether you'd absolutely be terrified to do something like that, because you looked like you were taking it on full bore. But I think most of us, that's like the most horrifying experience one could imagine, doing that in front of a studio audience. But you pulled it off.
well, let alone, 40 million Americans.
Yeah,
Don't
that
forget
too.
that.
That too. Faith 2016 would like to know how much Lecy actually identified with her character Becky. Now, last time you were on the show, I think we talked about how you identified with the Becky of today, um, where your life is and certain things that you can kind of feel and some commonalities with the character today.
Uh,
Back in the day, how did you feel about playing teenage Becky, and did you relate to that character?
I think kind of like I think Becky's kind of rebellious spirit I relate to. I think um, we're both good students. I definitely, aesthetically, I was a much more of a Darlene in terms of how I presented myself. I thought that I was pretty hardcore, I guess, when I was younger, which is amusing because let's face it, a lot of us did think that, and we were adorable thinking that about ourselves when, whatever. There was absolutely nothing hardcore about me at all.
Mhm.
Um, so aesthetically, but what I did do, I think when because that age, like you are a little less prone to wanting to be embarrassed and etc., which I think Becky kind of played with her parents. But there was something really liberating when I started kind of claiming the pink pants and the scrunchies and kind of the mall girl aesthetic, because I knew and saw girls like that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Who dressed like that, who wore kind of tight clothing and who were super kind of girly and whatever. And so once I kind of embraced that part of her, I just really felt like, oh my gosh, it's so fun being an actor because there are parts of this character that are not like me, and that's very freeing, you know?
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Um, Tell us about, and this is, I apologize, from Helpful Quarter 9315. Tell us about your haircut. Was it your decision to get the short bob, and how did those on the show take it?
Well, that's interesting because I think if you Google me, you can see me talking about this because it's a famous story. But I
Mhm.
had kind of long hair, kind of like how I do now, and it was the 90s, and everyone wanted that short grunge pixie cut that all the cool girls had. And the producers wouldn't let me cut my hair. They refused, and that happened several times because they said, "quote Men like long hair on women."
Mm.
And teenage Lecy wasn't really playing that whole thing, and wasn't very happy about those meetings, how they went. So I was sulking in hair and makeup, and Roseanne said, "What's wrong, Lecy?" And I said, "Oh, I'm pissed off, and it's the producers." And she literally grabs a pair of scissors and cuts off my ponytail. And I
Mm.
turn around and I see her with my ponytail in one hand and the scissors in another. And I went, "Oh my God." And she goes, "There, now you have to get it cut." And so the James, who was the hair guy at the time, my hair guy,
Mm.
suddenly, cut it and styled it and made it look like, Roseanne hadn't chopped my ponytail off. But I went downstairs and the producers looked horrified. And I said, "Well, talk to Roseanne about it. She did it," which was the truth.
Right. Wow. That's it's an oddly beautiful story.
It is. There's a fine line between feminism and trauma.
That is the great if you do an autobiography, some semblance of
It
that
should
has to be
be
the title.
feminist trauma.
So, a fine
That
line
would be
between
great. I would love
feminine.
that.
That's great. Um, Emotional Scratch 269, an emotional question, actually. What do you think Becky and Mark's relationship would have been like if Glenn was still, obviously here? Sadly, he is not, but if he was still here and around to play Mark in The Connors.
Ah, I love that question. I think they would have had a really wonderful relationship. I think inevitably there would still be conflict, I think, with Dan, and because they butted heads a lot. But I think that Becky and Mark really had a real love and were compatible. And I mean, it's also pretty cute. I mean, I think that, and Becky also thinks that.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah.
he's also sweet, and he's a wonderful actor and a wonderful person, and we miss him very, very much.
I
But
feel
what the
like
cool thing is that his niece
Hmm,
was just on our show. She had a little bit part,
really?
but she was on our show, and she was just so lovely.
That's really great. I feel like on the original show, your characters and obviously you two had built this chemistry between each other where it could feel very feasible that you were a couple that was going to last, like ups, downs, whatever, almost very similar in a way to the original Dan Roseanne relationship. You know,
Mhm.
a couple that could weather the storms and would feasibly still be together today. So that would have been wonderful to see. But
Yeah,
um
and now Becky's dating, talk about 90s to now, Sean Astin's
yeah,
character. Um, and he is lovable and a great actor, and it's great working with him. And he's a legend. Some of my friends said, "Oh, please tell him that I had his picture up in my bedroom," and I did. And he said, "Oh no, I don't want to hear that."
Hey, I hate to break it to you. I'm sure there's a lot of people who had your picture up in their locker as well. So, you know,
Oh, I don't know about that.
oh, come on now. We're going to fit one more question in. I can't believe that this time has zoomed through so fast. Rob Raj 8999. Lacey is my favorite character now of the family as an adult. I'd like to know if she would consider, and this is presumably down the road, but doing sort of an extension of the show, a spin-off, whatever the case may be, with Sarah Gilbert, with Becky and Darlene, under more of a TV-14 or MA rating. They have really scripted this whole thing out for you already. Um,
Wow.
you guys, maybe it's on Netflix, maybe it's on Max. It's the Connor sisters take Chicago. You guys are going on an extended vacation away from Lanford, and there's going to be a series about it apparently. Um,
Oh
But
my
the idea
gosh,
of
what a pitch. What a pitch.
take it right to the room. Um, the idea of extending this thing, because who knew that the Conners would be a thing for all these decades at this point?
Yeah.
How could you even imagine or kick out the possibility that it just continues to evolve through generations?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like it's been weird because I not only wasn't on the show, I wasn't in LA, I wasn't, in this life, and to kind of come back to it and then still have some months off. It's a little like a kind of like a similar teachers kind of schedule, having the summer off and whatever. But yeah, I mean, I love that idea. I love working on the show. I love working with Sarah. We have some really fun stuff. One episode that we just shot is really, really super fun. It's definitely going to be an audience favorite. It points to all the history of them, the competition, the love hate, their personalities, the fact that they regress so much when they're together, like we all do with our siblings. So yeah, count me in.
Excellent, excellent. Lecy's on board. That's going to make this pitch go much better
That's
in
right.
the
Also,
room.
I love Chicago as a Chicago native. That, of course, I would love to have a guest role on The Bear and just like, um, I mean, I'm a vegetarian, but still, that's my culture. I'll be the
Well,
vegetarian restaurant owner and I'll be
you
doing vegetarian Italian beefs.
or you could be just picketing outside, just stirring up trouble.
See, again, that's another great. See, everyone has a great pitch.
There's a million of them in this town, or your town, not here. But listen, we've kept you longer than we've even promised. But we thank you for sticking with us, and we're so glad to be able to talk to you again. The Conners, we're inching toward episode number 100, and hopefully far beyond that. You can catch them Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Check your local listings, of course, popping up in syndication everywhere as well. So you can start from the beginning. You can binge watch on streaming. You can catch up however you may. And in the interim, Lecy, so cool to talk to you again. And we're just rooting. We're rooting for you for more and more Conners. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for the questions. That was pretty amazing.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for joining us again. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the views, the listens. Make sure you share, you subscribe, you do all the things that you've been doing to keep us growing. And until next time, I'm Jerry. This is 90s to Now. And that was Lecy. Thanks, Lecy.
Thank you.